Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Double A Team podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Nagishi. It's time to look back at the NFL Week 12 and also yesterday's college football playoff action and chaos. With me, as always, is my co-host from Awful Announcing, the associate editor, Ken Fang himself. Ken, happy Sunday to you. I know you have at least something to to be cheerful, obviously, with the your Browns having an incredible game this Thursday against the Pittsburgh Steelers in a snow blizzard, and we'll get to that game in a little bit. But as always, I'm going to start off today because obviously the game happened today. The Bears found themselves in a crazier game, but with a little bit of a familiar feeling from last week, as they found another way to lose, this time in overtime against the Minnesota Vikings. And a couple of takeaways from this game. One, Matt Eberflus's defense is becoming unwatchable. And, this was his meal ticket. This is what got him into the NFL, the defensive coordinator job, which he was able to parlay that into getting the Bears job, which obviously he knows he is fortunately woefully inadequate and unqualified for now. And once again, the pass rush was pretty much non-existent throughout the game. And even if you take a pass rush into the equation, Sam Darnold, the journeyman quarterback who is having a kind of a renaissance season with the Minnesota Vikings under Kevin O'Connell. And, he was just basically shredding the Bears defense all over the field today. And Justin Jefferson was, kind of limited. So that gave an opportunity for Jordan Addison and T.J. Hawkinson and Aaron Jones, who led the rushing, to help lead the Vikings. And for the most part, the game was fairly close from the very get-go. And, Caleb Williams once again really, really shined this week against Brian Flores' blitzing defense. I was really, really worried about, this game. It would have come down to Thomas Brown, the OC, versus their defensive coordinator, Brian Flores. Because paper, Kevin O'Connell versus Matt Eberflus is a total mismatch on paper in terms of head coaching. So it really had to come down to OC versus their DC. And if you saw a glimpse of it today, Caleb was just outstanding. We'll get to the overtime in a little bit, but throughout the game, he was just basically, balling, dealing, great, passes, completions, used his feet once again to avoid sacks and get key yardage, first downs, whatever you want to call it. And, he was simply wonderful. And the talk here in Chicago right now is that, the OC Thomas Brown, who became an offensive coordinator a couple of weeks ago after they finally pulled the plug on Shane Waldron experience. And now they're really, really wanting to see him more as even an interim head coach now. And it's a bit of a, dangerous, it's a risky proposition with Thomas Brown because, it's a double-edged sword for Matt Eberflus because, he hired him as a passing game coordinator, and, they ended up hiring Shane Waldron, who they just scapegoated. So the question obviously is, why did they not name Thomas Brown as the offensive coordinator in the first place? And number two, the offensive players continue to rave about Brown in terms of his attention to detail and his ability to command respect and communicate effectively, which is a completely 180 against Matt Eberflus's, coaching demeanor and his lack of substance and in everything that he says and does. And I'm not worried about saying this. I think Matt Eberflus, whether he's a football coach or anything else, I think Matt Eberflus, in my opinion, is one of the dumbest human being I have ever come across in a long, long time in terms of his inability to communicate effectively. He's always repeating the same thing about we need to do better instead of I need to do better for the last almost 3 years in a row, which I have long been complaining about for a long, long time. And I think people are finally getting sick of him because he just doesn't seem to learn anything from the mistakes that he just keeps on making. And it just adds more and more, nailed to the coffin to his coaching career, which is literally at this point is on life support. And you have 96 hours from now, you're playing in Thanksgiving here in Detroit, where I'm currently residing, against the Detroit Lions, who are obviously, accustomed to playing in Thanksgiving, and now they have something to play for now, and they're incredibly motivated. They're well fine-tuned and well-operated team right now, and I'm just really, really scared as to what this loss that they have fought so hard, even with some some stuff that they shot themselves in the foot, throughout the game, notwithstanding, that now you have to turn around and play a team within your own division that could kick your ass, scoring 40 or even 50 points if Dan Campbell wants them to. So I'm not really looking forward to this Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is one of those holidays that, as a single Asian man, it's always been lonely. And the only thing that I was going to watch, and I did even think about buying the tickets, Thanksgiving, because I was so high on the season. But now it's at this point, there's really nothing to look forward to other than the development of Caleb Williams.
Right. Well, it was. I will have to say that I thought you had some things that you could be encouraged about over the game, as which you mentioned. Caleb Williams did bring the Bears back to tie the game. And scoring 10 points, getting to 2 touchdowns, the 2 scores that they needed, a touchdown and a field goal to get the game to overtime. And I think that's encouraging. But at the same time,
they got a little bit of luck because of that onside kick with about less than a minute that hit the Vikings player. By the way, for those of you who are wondering, why the Bears were able to get the ball, because there's 2 ways to get the onside kick. Number one, the ball has to travel, I believe, 10 yards or more.
It has to go 10 yards.
And then the second one, this is what happened. Even though that kick did not travel 10 yards, it hit the Vikings player's leg.
Yeah,
I believe it was backup tight end Johnny Munt. And then it became a live ball, and the Bears pounced on it, which was a smart move there, considering they had another embarrassing field goal block that was completely, it was nearly similar to the last kick of the game against the Packers, which they lost. But it's all for nothing at this point, right?
Right. But of course, there's no moral victories in the NFL. We all know that. It tied the game. They got it to overtime. But then in the overtime, Caleb Williams took us, there was a situation where they took a sack one. They had a chance.
That was on the overtime. Yeah, that was on the overtime.
And then they had a delay a game penalty, which really made it even worse. Caleb Williams got to get rid of that ball. You're on 3rd down. You want to remain in field goal territory. You just can't do that. You need to throw the ball away. And that's something that Caleb Williams is going to learn. But still, you can't exacerbate it, Stephen, with a delay of game penalty, which is even worse. And you're at 3rd and 26. You got to punt the ball away. And at that point, Minnesota is just going to take the ball down. You just knew at that point, Minnesota is going to take the ball down and score. No matter if it was a touchdown or if it was a field goal, you just knew. And
I felt that way, even though there was a bit of a craziness involved, because when the kick returner a punt return, excuse me, of the Vikings got tackled. The ball somehow popped out, and there was a mad scramble for the ball. If you notice,
Yeah, it looked like the Minnesota was going to try and lose the game again, but the ball was ruled down. So there was
it was rolled down at some point.
so there was no chance. So once that happened, you just knew that Minnesota with Sam Darnold and the experience that he has is going to drive the entire field and get the winning score, which is exactly what happened. The Minnesota got a field goal to win, and they got out of Dodge when meeting Chicago and Soldier Field with a big road win, keeping pace with the Detroit Lions in the NFC North. And of course, we'll talk about it later. But Green Bay also won today. So the best division in the NFL, excepting with the Bears, is again once again that's tight. But I'm wondering, and exactly this, I was going to bring this up. Are the Bears going to finally pull the plug on them? We all know that the Bears don't like to fire their coaches in season. That's not their MO.
Never done that, yeah.
And they're not going to do that. But they have to do this because they cannot, and especially, and as I mentioned this before, if Kevin Warren wants to get a new stadium built, you have to put a product on the field that's going to get the fans excited. Right now, the fans aren't excited about this product. You're having a situation ever since the Washington game where the Bears have been really floundering. They haven't gotten the job done. And really, to be honest with you, Steven, and while Matt Eberflus's performance in the two games previous to today was really lackluster, and the coaching has been really terrible, and Amy Trask even mentioned in her in the podcast What the Football with Susie Schuster, it was bad coaching in the case of the Bears. Yes. We're in a situation here where, yes, okay, they can say, oh, yeah, we did much better this week. And that Matt Eberflus goes, oh, we got to tie the game and we got to overtime. But still, you just can't, you can't just say that's a victory because it's not a victory. You lost the game. And you're still in a situation where you haven't won a game since London. So, and that's been about 4 or 5 weeks ago now, Steven. So you just can't say moral victories in the NFL because there are no such things as moral victories in the National Football League. You can't point to say, oh, we got the game tied. Oh, that's a positive. No, it's not a positive because you lost the game. It's a positive you tie the game and you go on to win the game. That's a positive. But you can't build on it and say, oh, we can build on this. No, you can't build on this because all you're doing is just saying, pointing to the team is that you're tone deaf and you're just making statements that are just trying to, make yourself look good in the media. And when that's just not the case. So, Steven, I just really wondering, we know the Bears aren't going to fire Eberflus now. They're not going to. They've never have fired a coach in season. And but they've got to pull the plug on Black Monday. They have to pull the plug after the season is done because for the Bears' sake, they cannot continue this type of performance. And I have a feeling if he's not let go after the season, there may be a rebellion inside the locker room because that's how bad it is. Because I really don't see, I can see the body language on the Bears. They're trying, but they just seem to know when there's a bad situation coming up. You can see the shoulders deflate. You can see the body language, Steven.
And there were some times in the third quarter when they were down 24-10. Pat Manley, who is the former Bears long snapper and now the football analyst with 670 to score in Chicago, they said it was even actually, tweeted, they quit. And, it came close, trust me. And, when you're down by 2 scores, especially in the third quarter, out of the first play with about, Jesus Christ, 44 seconds in, the Bears, they were already, inside the Bears red zone. And, the game was 14-10. They ended up, settling for a field goal. So it was 17-10. And the Bears on their first drive in the second half was driving. But then this is how dysfunction and disarray they were. On 4th and 4, they decided to go for it.
Yeah.
Now, the kicker and the long snapper was out on the field, but the players on the field were telling to wave them off. And then subsequently they lost so much time. They hurried up to the line of scrimmage. And then Caleb Williams threw an outlet to Keenan Allen, which hit his hands. And then, turnover on downs. The Vikings from there took the game, took it, all the way, and then scored a touchdown early in the fourth quarter. And they just really dug a hole for themselves. So the amount of, the incompetence and disarray that I keep seeing from this coaching staff, along with just a sheer amount of penalties on both offense and defense today. Look, and I know there were some concerns that Clay Martin's crew usually is one of the worst officiating crew in the eyes of the many people, and the Bears unfortunately got the short end of it. But still, even without those things taken into consideration, the Bears just had too many problems on both sides of the ball. And today it was the defense, once again, that let them down because of the lack of pass rush and soft zone defense. And I will also add about this one thing that I saw and heard this morning on ESPN 1000 pregame show, which Eberflus was being interviewed. And it kind of gave this a vibe that Eberflus was just trying to downplay Thomas Brown's accomplishment last week. The offense did enough to keep them in the game till the very end, until the field goal got blocked. And for me, Eberflus is somebody who is a very, very insecure man who is worried about something else outside of football. There were even reports that or rumors, I should say, that when the Bears interviewed Cliff Kingsbury, they passed on him because of his alpha male type personality. Okay. Now, given that Cliff Kingsbury's offense struggling, especially in the second half of the season, which was very much noted against the, even when he was a Cardinals coach last year, I think it's it's obviously it's a moot point that obviously Eberflus did not hire Kingsbury, but I do kind of see the fact that maybe Eberflus just does not know how to handle a big personality because he is such a conservative, small-minded coach. And when the stage gets bigger and the pressure is on, he cowers, and that's an embarrassment that I've seen enough. And I do believe that, this Thursday's game against the Lions will be the tipping point. Okay. You cannot allow, a substandard coaching drag down Caleb Williams, even with Thomas Brown continuing to shine. That's more on Matt Eberflus being such a bad coach, as much as it is on Thomas Brown being able to distinguish himself from Eberflus. So that's enough for me. I'm going to see what happens this upcoming Thursday, and I'm going to be watching this game in hopes that the Bears would find another way to lose this one, and then hopefully on Friday or maybe on Thursday night, they would just pull the plug on Matt Eberflus. And, I don't know which is worse, getting fired on Thursday, the Thanksgiving Day, or getting fired on Friday. Which mostly, most coaches and players will likely enjoy their Thanksgiving meal anyway. So.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. I don't think the Bears would do that. But I know that Bears fans are certainly hope. But, I and we'll do a transition over to Thursday night to my team.
Let me add one more time, because if this things continue to go on, if the losing continues, it's not going to be a good look on Ryan Poles, the general manager who brought him back, because the patience is running out. So at some point, if Poles wants to have a shot at hiring his own coach, and I don't know if there's a backdoor deal where there's an agreement within the organization to keep Eberflus until the very end, no matter what happens. This is not going to reflect very, very well on the general manager either. So, whatever the Bears are doing, let the general manager do his own job. Do not interfere. And for the love of God, just make sure that, I hope that, Ryan Poles himself also have the self-awareness that Matt Eberflus can no longer be kept, even all the way until the end of the season, because of the collateral damage he's causing, and he's going to go down along with Matt Eberflus. So there's enough Bears rant from me. All right, let's talk about your Cleveland Browns that was popped up earlier today. Oh, sorry. Let me post it. Sorry. All right. Let me just post this up. Sorry. Okay. All right. I won't touch it. I apologize there.
That's okay.
We just kept on, posting simultaneously and just erasing it off. But
okay. So the Browns, and a game in which I had no hope, like similar to you for this Thursday, you have no hope. I know that you're not having much hope against the Detroit Lions. I had no hope going into this game against the Pittsburgh Steelers on Thursday night. I joked that Al Michaels would have his private plane warmed up and ready to go in the first quarter if this game didn't turn out well. But what turned out to be a snow globe effect as snow started falling. They had snow showers at the beginning of the game, and it turned out to be a brilliant look with the snow over at the Cleveland Browns Stadium. I know it's Huntington Bank Stadium, but I like to still call it Cleveland Browns Stadium. The Browns showed the potential of what was like last year when you had Nick Chubb healthy. He scored 2 touchdowns. Myles Garrett sacked Russell Wilson 3 times. And it was a game in which even after the Steelers took the lead in the fourth quarter, the Browns came back and scored, and then won the game 24-19. It showed what it was like when Joe Flacco was quarterbacking last season and bringing the Browns to a playoff berth. Of course, you had Jameis Winston this time coming in, playing, of course, for Deshaun Watson, who's hurt for the rest of the season. And it was a game in which, at least for me, was totally, at least showed, at least for me as a Browns fan, what it was like to have hope. Okay, when we had last season when Joe Flacco was there, Jameis Winston played within himself. Of course, there were situations when Jameis played like the bad Jameis, throwing a pick, but he overall played within himself. When you have a healthy Nick Chubb who's able to run the ball, you don't have to make really terrible decisions. And Nick Chubb scored the winning touchdown, and it was great to see. Especially now that the Browns have defeated, even though they were 3-8, they have wins over the Baltimore Ravens this season and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Very encouraging, at least. I mean, are they going to go to the playoffs? No, they're not going to go to the playoffs. They're not. There's no hope of that. But at least they have a chance, maybe at least be a spoiler, and that's something you want to see. Something you want to see some play by your team to give your team, your fans, hope for the following season. And I don't know if that's going to mean Jameis Winston back next year or if that means Deshaun Watson back. But I would love to see Jameis Winston back because he's playing with joy at that position. Deshaun Watson has not played with joy at all. Kevin Stefanski actually showed that why he has been a playoff coach over this. He made good decisions and actually made decent decisions in this game. So I have to say, yes, I am I hopeful for the rest of the season? No, I still don't have hope for the rest of the season. Do I think that maybe if the Browns played with this type of joy, they can affect the playoff race by playing spoiler? It's possible, but we have to see what they can do coming up in the next week or so. But I still thought that they played quite well. Jameis Winston on his appearance with the Amazon Prime Video post-game show. Had a lot of fun. And go ahead and play that. You can go ahead and play the post-game press conference.
Right. This is Jameis after the game talking about playing in the snow for the very first time in his career. Folks, remember, he is from the South. He played at Florida State, began his career in Tampa pretty much, and played at the New Orleans Saints briefly last year. So he's never dealt with the snow environment. So this is him enthusiastically talking about the snow. Here we go.
Man, it really was amazing. Like, I was just praying on the sideline because that fourth quarter, it really was like it was a whole paradigm shift. Like we were playing so well offensively, and then bang, bang, back-to-back drives with turnovers. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like this is really an NFL's film moment. The snow starts pouring down. It starts getting like I felt like my feet started getting heavy because I'm squishing through the snow. And man, it was so good. And it was so great to end up getting that win.
I mean, how can you not love this guy? You know, this man
Yeah.
was everything. You know, he's a quote machine before, during, and after the game. And I got to tell you, I saw the one, you know, we talked about the week before, you know, the Browns and the Saints, which was Jameis's homecoming game. And you probably saw this, Ken. Winston was basically hugging with so many Saints staffs and former teammates. They all lined up wanting to, you know, shake hands and hug him so much. This is a man that obviously, you know, has had his issues. You know, we know the crab leg stealing when he was in, I believe, in college. That's has long been a running joke, and you know the sexual assault allegations, of course, and you know, and of course that doesn't, you know, we're not trying to downplay that at all, folks. Don't get us wrong, but you know, this man has certainly, you know, you like to think that he's turning it around, and you know, I think Cleveland loves him more than he loves the Browns right now, and you gotta admit that you know, the Browns probably are, you know, better off with him as the quarterback, or maybe they should have done that from the, you know, the very get go, or at least move on from Watson earlier this year. But obviously that's neither here nor there. So
Right.
I was listening to the Browns post game show on ESPN Cleveland YouTube channel. I forgot the name of the host. They were enthusiastic about the game and everything, but obviously the conversation he said something about was there's no need to point, you know, there's no need to fire or move on from Kevin Stefanski after this game. Ken, I know we talked about his job security last week. Let me ask you, I know it's only a week, but do you feel about how do you feel about Stefanski, and do you think that this win saved his job, and are you okay with that?
Yeah, I don't really have a problem with Kevin Stefanski. Yes, I know that he does well. He seems always to script his first drive very well, and then after that, things seem to go downhill. But I really think that I don't have a problem with him. I do have a problem with Cleveland management, who are forcing him to play Deshaun Watson and forcing him to say things. Oh, it's my decision, when we know it wasn't that at all. But I do have to think that Stefanski may have saved his job for another season, but at least through the end of the season. I don't think that you know, when you're 2-8 going into it, and if he had lost the game against Pittsburgh, there might have been a situation where maybe Cleveland management might have thought to move on. Of course, they have Mike Vrabel on the sidelines, being acting as a quote unquote consultant, and now he's making more of a role. Which is now leading to Cleveland fans thinking it's hopeful that maybe the former Ohio State alumnus, no, he's not former, but he is an Ohio State alumnus, could come back and come back to Northern Ohio and save the Cleveland Browns. I don't really know if he wants to do that, but at least at this point, Kevin Stefanski at least showed that a little bit of showed it a little bit, saying, "Look, I do need some help on the sidelines. Hey, you're a former NFL coach. You've been on the sidelines. You know what it's like to be a head coach. Give me some ideas. I need some fresh stuff." So I think it's nothing wrong with having Mike Vrabel coming in and be a quote unquote a consultant. I don't think Vrabel's going to try and is gunning for Stefanski's job, but I will say that perhaps we'll see more. At least we'll see Kevin Stefanski for the rest of the season, especially with the effort that they showed against the Steelers on Thursday, which was actually, I thought, was quite encouraging.
All right, let's move on to the other game here. The game that just ended about an hour or so ago. You know, the Packers throttled the San Francisco 49ers. And, you know, this game, obviously, they missed the 49ers were missing Brock Purdy, Trent Williams, I believe, was not also playing, and maybe some other players on the defense
they
as well.
They showed it.
They were a mash unit, and unfortunately they ended up playing. I forgot the name of Brock Allen or something like that was the quarterback or something. And he was pretty.
He was overmatched.
Yeah, he was overmatched. The 49ers had a lot of success against the Packers in recent years. Obviously, we remember the consecutive years of playoff football that the 49ers eliminated them, including the one against the 2 years ago, I believe. Correct me, in a snow game where Robbie Gould kicked the game-winning field goal as time expired in an upset win.
Right.
So there were some hopes, with Christian McCaffrey back and everything. But I saw the glimpse of the game, but there was no contest, unfortunately, Ken.
Yeah, I mean, this game was a Fox game. They were hoping that Tom Brady calling his boyhood team, there would be a much closer game. But Christian McCaffrey had no bearing in this game. Deebo Samuel basically had none. George Kittle. I mean, these are all stars. These are all pros, Steven. They're part of a, they should, if we still had the Pro Bowl and it's in the old days, they would definitely be first team all pro, and all first team Pro Bowlers. But, today this looked like a team that, and the 49ers, of course, under Kyle Shanahan have done some great things. And they looked far from the Super Bowl team that they were last season, Steven.
Right.
And then I mentioned Allen just made bad decisions. There were turnovers all over the place. Christian McCaffrey fumbled the ball. It was just a defense. They made the Green Bay Packers look like world beaters. And, and that's something that I don't think, Mike Shanahan's not there anymore. He's not coaching, Steven. I think you mean Kyle Shanahan.
Oh, excuse me. I apologize. Let me rephrase this.
I don't think Kyle Shanahan's on the hot seat. I don't think, I
don't know. This is a bit of a hot button topic, I think, right now. I understand that, the Super Bowl hangover, it's definitely real, as we've been seeing with the 49ers and, the countless teams who lost the Super Bowls in the past. There's no question about that. But, this is a crazy team that who was fired, Jim Harbaugh, at their peak. Of course, Trent Baalke was the guy that certainly decided to fire Jim Harbaugh because he did not get along with Harbaugh and felt threatened by his presence there, as he was, helping the 49ers back to their, heyday. And crazier things have happened. I know the Bears fans are crazy enough to think that he would be fired and come here, or even, God forbid, I'll say this: if the Bears really want to fix this situation with this coaching, and if Kyle Shanahan says, I want out of 49ers. And then if the 49ers are like, we're not firing yet, maybe if the Bears are, crazy enough to say they have 2 second-round picks. Okay, this is just a hypothetical. They have two second-round picks. They're one of them being a high pick from their trade with Carolina 2 years ago or a year ago. I wouldn't mind giving up a second-round pick on a competent top coach like Kyle Shanahan. It would, if the 49ers says, maybe we need to move on anyway, because
I don't see that. John Lynch brought Kyle Shanahan in. John Lynch is still, I still think he feels faith in Shanahan. I don't think he's going to get rid of him after one season, after a Super Bowl removed. I don't think that he can blame Kyle Shanahan and I know Kyle Shanahan sometimes, and I've accused Kyle Shanahan of getting
too cute. Clock management, yes.
Yeah. But I don't see that John Lynch pulling the trigger on Kyle Shanahan, especially this far removed from a Super Bowl last season. Shanahan is a guy that Lynch likes. He brought him in. I don't see that happening. I think that Shanahan at least has bought himself some capital, probably for at least another season or so. And knowing that Brock Purdy is their guy, and he was hurt today, and he wasn't playing. I don't think that John Lynch is always going to say, "Oh, well, we lost to Green Bay. I'm going to pull the trigger on you and get rid of you." I don't think he's he's that type of. First of all, John Lynch has shown himself to be a very a good evaluator of talent. This after, especially, he was an announcer and an analyst for Fox Sports. He went right from the broadcast booth into the front office, and he's shown himself to be very competent. So and very patient. So I don't think he's going to go pull the trigger on Kyle Shanahan unless if Shanahan says I want to leave. I don't think that Lynch would block the door or keep him from doing so. But I think that this is a partnership that they like working with each other. So I don't. And Lynch and Shanahan are good friends. So I don't see that happening. I don't think that he's going to say Kyle Shanahan is on the hot seat and go to Chicago or go to some other place and get the hell out of my life. I don't think John Lynch would ever do that unless they got to a point where the 49ers had showed some type of regression, and the 49ers, and they haven't. They're in danger of not making the playoffs. Kind of interesting how the division is flipped with Seattle right now on top, and the Rams, of course, having some difficulty, although they're leading the Philadelphia Eagles 7-3 right now. But I still don't see that the 49ers. I would have to think would have to be considered a favorite for the division next season when everyone's healthy, Steven. So I can't see Kyle Shanahan being on the hot seat.
Well, the saving grace right now is that the NFC West, it's basically a team with they're all have issues. 6-5, 5-6, right now. So obviously they are still in the hunt. There's no question about that. So if God forbid the 49ers still can't find their way out of this rut, let's just say, and if the relationship is the frail, obviously the owners are the ones that make the decision. So sometimes overrule the GM and stuff like that. And the Yorks have had that problems in the past. Ever since they took over from the Bartlows back long time ago. So we shall see if the 49ers can run the table. There's a lot of people who will find Shanahan. Obviously, this will be the greatest coaching job ever. And the next 6 remaining games will ultimately, I think, make or break Kyle Shanahan. I'm not asking somebody to be fired. I don't think it will happen, but look, we know crazier things, has happened in the
past. I see that the 49ers are pretty stable, and I know the Yorks have done some crazy things in the past, but I think that they're letting John Lynch run the things over there in the front office, and as we mentioned, he's a good evaluator of talent, and he's helped build this team. I don't think that even if we talk about the Super Bowl hangover, and let's say they do miss the playoffs, I don't think that they would say, "Hey, John Lynch, get rid of Kyle Shanahan." I don't see that happening.
All right, let's move on to the another surprise today. The Chiefs barely survived Carolina on the road, and I got to give credit to Panthers. They're actually fighting hard under first-year coach Drew Canales. And look, I know they struggled badly from the get-go, and the ones that they were so bad from last year that kind of carried over at the beginning of the season. Bryce Young got benched. There were talks about trading Young and all that kind of stuff. Andy Dalton came in, and obviously nothing really changed offensively. And then they went back to Bryce Young again. From there, I have to say, Bryce Young has actually looked very, very good and very, very competent, and playing with confidence. Obviously, young quarterbacks, they get thrown into the fire, and then or in the water, and basically tell them to hey, listen, sink or swim on your own. And that's always been a problem with a lot of teams. The Bears also, you could throw in there, with the quarterbacks in the past that they drafted. and what they're doing with Caleb this year as well. That's a lot of bad organizations make mistakes with their quarterback development, and thank God at least Carolina came back to their senses and brought Bryce Young back into the starting lineup, and from there, they've actually won a couple of games and put up a decent fight, especially against the world champions today.
Yeah, it was interesting because they were down. Bryce Young played within himself. Now, of course, against earlier, they brought Bryce Young back. I think they wanted to keep Andy Dalton in the game, but in the starting position. But Dalton got hurt, so their hand was kind of forced. But I think Young learned from watching Andy Dalton, and that's what the thing about benching. Hopefully, you do with a young quarterback is that when you bench him, he learns and he doesn't pout. You could make a career could be made or broken from a situation where when you get a benching. And Bryce Young decided, they said, look, I understand why I got benched. I got to learn. I know that what I did in college isn't necessarily going to work in the pros. And I think he learned from watching Andy Dalton be the quarterback. And that has helped his development because, as you mentioned, he's won a couple of games. And then, again, he helped bring the Panthers down to the tying score. Now, granted, there was a DPI in the end zone that helped out immensely. And then, again, when they scored a touchdown, again, they're trying to do the 2-point conversion. There was another DPI, defensive pass interference, in the end zone that helped out. But still, they did tie the game. Of course, the Carolina defense failed them when they allowed Patrick Mahomes to run free to get into field goal range to get the time to get the winning score in overtime. But still, you have to be encouraged. If you're a Carolina Panthers fan, and I know a couple of them on Blue Sky and Twitter, I think they have to be encouraged by how the way Bryce Young played. They just have to be. If you're the Carolina Panthers and you have a chance to knock out the world champions, you just cannot allow Patrick Mahomes to run free and run 30 yards into your own territory to run and set up a winning field goal. You've got to find a way. Got to get him out of bounds. You've got to make. I mean, sure, you can't hit the quarterback, but you have to find a way to get him out of bounds before he runs free for 30 yards. And then that basically lost the game. Once he did that, you knew that Carolina Panthers weren't going to win the game. But I have to say that Bryce Young, very encouraging what we're seeing right now. And, this is exactly what the Panthers were hoping when they drafted Bryce Young. Now, granted, was it the right pick at the right time? Who knows, but right now, I won't say that it was justified for them to make that pick at where they were at the time last year, but I do say that right now that Bryce Young is showing some encouraging signs now, that especially after he got benched and coming back, because I think he's learning a few things and he's not throwing, making the passes that he was earlier in the season that made him look like a bust. And people were calling him a bust. I don't think I think right now he's showing some signs that he can definitely be a good quarterback in this league.
Yeah, Drew Canales has been somewhat non-committal to Bryce Young. He says like a weekly thing now. But listen, no one is going to be fooled by this. You got to stick with Bryce Young for the rest of the season and let him develop. Okay.
Yeah.
You've already jerked around. There's no point in going back to Andy Dalton unless Bryce Young is seriously hurt. Okay. For the sake of the development, let the guy play. It's the same thing with, Caleb Williams. He's going to make mistakes. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
But you're going to have to learn to live with that mistake. I saw that with Caleb Williams on the overtime very first drive. He took a meaningless sack on second down. And, put the Bears in a deeper hole, second and 21 or something like that. Those things are unfortunately likely happen. And, when you're as conservative of a head coach like Matt Eberflus is, they're going to try and tame down and, just play not to lose. But if you're an offensive coordinator who, your MO is developing quarterbacks and, aggressive play calling and stuff like that, you need to develop a quarterback. And you also have to make sure that, if Bryce Young is the quarterback of the future for you, you're tied to him together, after such a disastrous rookie season. So I think Canales needs to make a commitment and let him play the rest of the season. Now, on the Chiefs side, I saw a report out there that the Chiefs players after the game in the locker room, they look really, really shocked, and they had their heads down. They almost gave this game away, and the locker room was very, very silent. And that I think that the frustration of these close games, that they had, 2 weeks ago, they barely scraped by, the Broncos with a blocked field goal, and then a week later, you were, soundly beaten by Buffalo Bills. Now the race for the AFC playoffs, you only have a 1-game advantage on the home field advantage. So the pressure is on the Chiefs right now, and barely scraping by Carolina certainly kind of raises questions about is something wrong with their offense, or is something wrong with their defense? Something's not right with the Chiefs or something, whether it's pass protection or the defense. There's a lot of questions that will have to be answered in the next 6 games. And, they have a Black Friday game against the, Las Vegas Raiders this week, which I believe is in Las Vegas.
Yes.
So they're going to have to, get their, act together quickly, even against the Las Vegas, even on the road. I would expect the Chiefs to have a pretty good game. But what we saw today against the Carolina Panthers, I expect the Chiefs to maybe struggle against an opponent that they should have a rather easier time beating. So, I understand. Regular season don't mean matter against for teams like the Chiefs, but they get there. Once it's there, playoffs is all that matters. But if you want to get there, you would rather be a top seed than I think maybe a second or third seed that they've went through last year.
Well, yeah, we do remember last season they were struggling all throughout the games and they lost to the Raiders. As a matter of fact, they lost. I
remember that game
in Las Vegas, and it basically knocked them
out.
Of
the Chiefs on the road at home too. That was a pretty bad game. I should remember in Kansas City that they were completely dominated by the the Raiders.
Right. Yeah, they were not. They basically until the last couple of weeks of the regular season last season, Stephen, we all remember the Chiefs were limping in and they weren't looking like a Super Bowl team. And then they had to play the wild card game at home, that very cold game against Miami, but then had to go on the road to win the divisional playoff. And then they had to win in Baltimore for the AFC championship game. But by that time, they had raided the ship. Chris Jones was playing very well. Travis Kelce was playing well. Mahomes was basically back on his way. So I think this is a team that knows how to win. And they know how to win on the road too. They're not too concerned about that. But I have a feeling that when you are playing against the Carolina Panthers and a team that you're supposed to be blowing out, I think that might be a wake-up call for them. I think this is definitely a wake-up call, and I think that they'll be Andy Reid will have them ready against the Raiders, against the Raiders on Friday. We'll see about that. That's going to be on Amazon. Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit will call that game. So that'll be interesting about that. Other games that happened this Sunday, Washington and the Cowboys. That was a crazy, crazy finish. It was 10-9, Stephen, at halftime. And then they scored 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, including two kickoff returns by the Dallas Cowboys, which we'll talk about, an 86-yard touchdown pass, which should have tied the game, and also special teams, 2 kicks that by the Washington kicker that were missed. It just ended up being a crazy, crazy game. If you happen to watch it on Red Zone, or if you happen to see it in your city or your home market,
I saw it with the B-dubs today. I saw that one.
It was absolutely insane, and I was watching it on Red Zone. it seemingly, as I turned over, there seemed to be a touchdown be scored all over the place. Washington, Jaden Daniels didn't have a very good game, to be honest with you. He was they were struggling. Dallas, who came into this game losers of 5 in a row, Steven. They hadn't won. This is how long they hadn't won. They had not won since the baseball playoffs. Not talking the championship series. They had not won since the divisional series. So that's how bad they had it. And I got to say that Dallas, which had shown no hope, got the job done today. I didn't think that they would go into Washington and win a road game, but this is the NFL. Things can happen, and the Commanders, who have lost, they lost last week too, and they also lost to Philadelphia too. Now have lost in the division twice now, and that's not a good sign for them, especially when they had, especially as you mentioned, they defeated the Chicago Bears on that Hail Mary. Ever since then, they've lost in the division twice, and that's not good. So
they lost to Pittsburgh as well at home too. So that's not good.
They lost to Pittsburgh for the week after that game against Chicago. So you're losers of 3 in a row basically right now, and that's not a very good sign, especially when you were looking like you were going to be the class of the division. Now the Philadelphia Eagles are looking that way right now. Although they are trailing the Los Angeles Rams 7-6 in the first, I believe now in the second quarter on Sunday Night Football. So the Commanders, with Dan Quinn, he came in right now. He was talking as a hot coach, but right now, when you're losers of 3 in a row, and as Bill Parcells has said, you are what you are right now. You're almost a 500 team right now in the division. And losing 2 big games in the division, especially to Philadelphia and now to Dallas, that doesn't help you at all.
No, this was a bad game for Washington. They scored a tying touchdown, bad snap and a bad kick. 27-26, and then from there, onside kick that was picked up and returned for a touchdown. I just don't understand the mindset by the Cowboys. Wante Thomas, I believe, was the. He should have just taken a kneel there, and then the game wasn't over until again another Hail Mary attempt by Jaden Daniels there. The Lightning thankfully didn't strike twice for them, I guess, but. I got to tell you, we were talking about Cliff Kingsbury earlier with the Bears interviewing for the OC position. And, the Cliff Kingsbury's, offense has been struggling. And I know he kind of bristled at the question earlier this week about his offense struggling in the second half of the season. They get off to a real fast start, and now they're struggling. And look, I'm not saying that Cliff Kingsbury will be fired, but, if the Washington Commanders do not make the playoffs, or they barely make it to the playoffs and lose badly in the opening round or something, and then the offense is barely, scoring any points at all, then I guess, Cliff Kingsbury question needs to be asked inside the, the Washington Commanders, headquarters. Is this the right guy to help develop Jaden Daniels long term, or do we need to move on from him even after just 1 year? Sometimes it's easy to pull the plug and start over. And do you want to do that with a rookie quarterback? Who is kind of in a rut right now, and for the long term development, I think Dan Quinn himself. He and the GM Adam Peters and maybe even the team owner Josh Harris, they all have to have a real honest conversation. Do I want Cliff Kingsbury long term if the offense continues to struggle? So, Washington is in a rut right now offensively. I still think that they're going to be able to find their way into the playoffs because both. The New York Giants, we will get there in a moment. The Giants and the Cowboys are, pathetically bad team right now, at least in the division. So, the 7 teams in the in the NFC playoffs. The NFC South is somewhat still up in the air, but
Yeah, the West
maybe
is set.
they're right. The West is as well. So at least maybe they might be able to sneak into the playoffs as a wild card team, but anything above that, I think it's just maybe too much for Washington. So we'll see if this team able to get out of the rut, and maybe Cliff Kingsbury jinx is legitimate at this point. All right, let's move on to the New York Giants, Ken. And this team has been on quite a news this week. First of all, they lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have been struggling. They won 30-7. The Giants pulled the plug on Daniel Jones, and they put in Tommy DeVito, who was who actually helped them get to win 3 games last year. 3-3 as a starter. Obviously, he's from New Jersey. He's an Italian American. Obviously, no stereotypes there. So obviously, the fans are partial to him, and they were hoping that the miracles happen again. With DeVito in the game. Unfortunately, the score certainly did not reflect the performance today. And
Right.
Daniel Jones asked for his release, which happened, I believe, the Friday, I believe?
Yeah, it happened. It happened Friday. He was actually put on the practice squad, and he had a
practice as even a safety, which is I understand it's kind of an insult to for a guy like him. So
right, but he made a very strange press conference after being put there, and basically said, "I don't want to be here anymore." It depends on your quarterbacking. It depends on your ego. Some players say, "Hey, look, I got to learn from this. There's a reason I was put on the practice squad. Let's see what I can do. Let's see how I can play better. Maybe I can help the team in this way." But he did ask for his release. He's gone from the team now. Granted, he signed a big contract, by the Giants gave him a big contract, which I don't think he deserved, to be honest with you. He didn't show anything to me to deserve it, Steven. So I think, to be honest with you, the Giants, the football Giants, are in a real big flux right now, Steven. Brian Daboll, I don't think he's going to stay. I'm surprised he's survived this long. The GM right now, this is a Giants, this is a franchise that has had some very proud moments. They defeated the Patriots twice in the Super Bowl in this century. They've won with Bill Parcells, of course, back in the 90s and the 80s as well. So it seems like this team gets the highest of highs, Steven, and then when they get low, they get really, really low. And you've seen it throughout their history, whether it was the Miracle at the Meadowlands or Miracle at the Meadowlands 2, or anything like the situations where they get to the Super Bowl and they get really, really successful. Whether it's under Tom Coughlin, and now they're in a situation where they just can't find the right combination. I don't know what this team is right now. I don't think they have an identity. I don't think they know what they are. That what they are is a bad football team. We've seen them a couple of times in prime time this season. They're not going to be on prime time. I don't think they should be on prime time until they can show that they earned it. And right now, Steven, they're just, you just see it right now in that team. Especially when they played Tampa Bay today, when Baker Mayfield scored and did the old Tommy DeVito thing and to mock him. Well, actually, they said it wasn't really mocking. He just said that he was admiring Tommy DeVito, but still, I think that this whole situation with the Giants, that they need to blow the whole organization up and restart all over again, because a New York market team shouldn't be this low right now. And we've seen it before with the Giants. They've been that low before, But man, this is really the depth of despair right now for the Giants.
I'm going to play a clip that would lead to some obviously a more in-depth conversation about on his press conference. Here we go.
Yep.
Been some great times, but of course, we all wish there had been more of those. I take full responsibility for my part in not bringing more wins. No one wanted to win more games worse than me, and I gave everything I had on the field and in my preparation. Of course, this season has been disappointing for all, and of course, I wish I could have done more. I'm 100% accountable for my part. I did not play well enough consistently enough to help the team get the results. The reality of the NFL is it's hard to win games and requires consistent performance from everyone involved. We didn't do that well enough, so the idea to change something happens, and I understand. I love the game. I love being part of a team. I'm excited for the next opportunity and know that there's a lot of good football in front of me, and I'm excited about that. Been some great times.
Yes, and then here's another one. This is another one that's interesting. Brian Dable being asked about the situation, and then I want you to pay attention to the loud noise here on the background. Here we go.
So I know we just put out a statement releasing Daniel. Wish Daniel the best. He came in this morning, had a meeting with Mr. Mara, and then after discussing with John, with Joe, and with Daniel, felt this was the best thing for Daniel. Got a lot of respect for him, like I've said, true pro, and wish him all the best.
Now, for those who are not familiar, what the hell's going on? It's not a construction that is happening. Apparently, let me pull this up here. That was the photo you saw. There was a photo of, I believe, Darius Slayton, who was so pissed after finding out about the release of Daniel Jones, believe it or not. And right here we go. This is what it says. The loud sound you heard in the background on Dabo's presser was Darius Slayton's reaction to hearing that his best friend Daniel Jones was released. He was devastated. We had to restrain him. Holy cow, Cam. That's not a construction. That was like a legit somebody who was pissed off and was ready to fight Daniel Jones, GM Joe Shane, and everything. And my God, that was pretty something there.
Yeah. That, I mean, you even heard it through Daniel Jones' press conference. The noise there. I don't. Again, that right now that organization's in disarray. Brian Dable has lost the team. It looks like to me, Steven. So I think that there needs to be full-scale changes right now at the Giants because it's not good over there. And you saw that today in their effort against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A really pitiful performance.
Malik Neighbors even said, we're soft as F, and
he's a rookie. He's a rookie,
and he's complaining about getting the ball finally after when the game was like 30-0 in the fourth quarter, which makes absolutely no sense right now. And I understand his frustration and everything, but the reason why we played that Daniel Jones clip was obviously L. Duncan of ESPN mocking the statement, and then Stephen A. kind of like jumping into this issue about Giants complaint to the ESPN in dispute on his First Take show, which apparently somebody from the New York Post posted that there was actually no complaint being made from the New York Giants. So
there was. It was Pat Hanlon. No, there was a complaint by Pat Hanlon, who was a Giants PR person. He said that he felt that he said that in the situation where ESPN has been in, it's really hypocritical of ESPN to make these type of statements. But Pat Hanlon is an attack dog. I've dealt with Pat Hanlon before. He's an attack dog. He'll come out and say, I mean, he is the type of guy you want for your public relations to defend you and also come out and attack when necessary. But I really have to say that L. Duncan, I think she was right about this, really, to be honest with you, because Daniel Jones, he said, really shouldn't have, he went to Duke. He should have made I could have made the statement for him in 30 seconds. And he why did he have to write notes about it? I gotta say that it's just it's a silly story, but the fact is that L made a little bit more than it had to be. Stephen A jumped in on it, but Pat Hanlon, of course, made it a little bit more by trying to put himself into the story himself as well, Stephen. But I have to be honest. I think that I have to say that this story, and that of course made it interesting enough by making a tweet about it by saying, it was snowing today. I've been dealing with snowflakes all week, so it was kind of funny. But yeah, it's interesting to see how this whole situation played out. But I'll be honest with you, I don't think she crossed the line. I just think it was kind of funny, but I just think that Daniel Jones didn't make it any easier on himself. Like I said, I know it was a blow to his ego by being put on the practice squad, but I also think at the same time, asking for his release is a little extreme, at least for me. You try and you say, hey, let me fight my way back on here. But maybe he felt that maybe playing behind Tommy DeVito is a blow to his ego more than anything else.
I get it. I'm not attacking anybody here. Daniel Jones certainly decided that he wanted a fresh start. Well, he's going to get one. As soon as the he clear waivers. So we'll find out on tomorrow. As soon as tomorrow, wherever he goes. I know he says he wants to play for a contender or something, but I don't know if anybody's going to sign him as even as a backup at best, perhaps. So we'll find out. But again, this whole thing was kind of blown out of proportion to a degree, and ironically, Daniel Jones played a huge role in all of this, and the mess that the Giants that they are now certainly is tied to committing themselves to Daniel Jones after 2022 when they won the playoffs.
Right.
Luckily they made it to the playoffs, and from there ever since it's been just a downhill spiral. And I think it's not Daniel Jones obviously probably isn't the only one that's going to likely lose their job. I think there's a significant chance that Dable and even GM Joe Shane are maybe under a heavy scrutiny under Wellington Mara ownership, and I could see the Giants just continue to go on a massive spiral, and maybe Brian Dable could be the next coach to lose the head coach, probably faster than Doug Peterson or even Matt Eberflus. So we shall see. They're playing the Cowboys on Thursday. And if the Cowboys somehow snag Daniel Jones, that would be an ultimate. That
would be very funny.
That would be pretty funny. And then Daniel Jones somehow come into the game and play, certain snaps just to stick it to the Giants. So we shall see. But again, listen, Ken, thank you very much for doing this tonight. We wanted to talk about college football, about obviously a lot of teams, ranked teams, especially the SEC, lost. Now they're all pretty much three lost teams now. But we'll talk more about it after we get back. Hopefully we'll talk about it next week, either whenever you're convenient, obviously next week being a Thanksgiving holiday. So we will notify everybody on X for our time. Thank you for tonight, 229 people joining us. And Ken, any final words before we close out the show for Thanksgiving?
Just wanted to mention also congratulations to Marta, the women's soccer legend. She won her first NWSL championship last night with the Orlando Pride as it defeated the Washington Spirit 1-0 in the NWSL championship. If this is her last season, she goes out on top. She was a little coy last night during the Attacking Third post-game show on Paramount Plus. So it was interesting to see that. But great to see Marta go out. If she indeed goes out on top, if this is the way that she goes out, she wins with the championship. And she also had her mom see her play for the very first time, Stephen, in the crowd. So she got to see her in the United States, and it was a big emotional moment for Marta. So a wonderful moment for her. A player who has played in the World Cup for Brazil, represented her country very well, done a lot for women's soccer, considered probably the greatest women's soccer player of all time. Wonderful to see her get the NWSL championship. She's won championships with other teams as well, club teams, but this is her very first with the NWSL in the major flight as this league continues to do very well. So if she does come back, great, but if not, she goes out on top.
And my final words are obviously baseball awards. No surprise, Aaron Judge wins the AL MVP, even with the bad World Series. That wasn't going to change at all. And National League, Shohei Ohtani unanimously wins the MVP, second consecutive year. Only a handful of players to win both leagues. I don't think no one has ever won it consecutively after switching the league. So that's another maybe first for Ohtani's an incredible season. AL's Cy Young Award, Tariq Skubal, again a deserving one. As somebody who lived in the Detroit area, he has certainly been an incredible pitcher carrying the team. I think not too long ago, they were even talking about maybe trading him because the Tigers were probably 6 or 7 games behind, below 500, and thankfully they didn't do that, and they caught fire at the right time. Certainly helped that they play in the same division as the Chicago White Sox. So, Tigers snuck in. They made it to the playoffs fairly deeply. He won about 18 games, I believe. So Skubal deserves the AL Cy Young Award. National League, Chris Sale won I believe his second one. I think he might have won one when he was with the White Sox, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So that's another pitcher who's won Cy Young Award with both leagues. That's another a huge accomplishment for somebody who's had so much injuries to deal with the last couple of years. He's barely pitched at all, if I'm not mistaken. Even with the Red Sox, White Sox, Red Sox, and basically, even with the Braves afterwards, he was barely pitching last year. Now he's a Cy Young Award winner. So, kudos to him. He's getting up there age-wise, but, hopefully, he's got a couple more years left on his, body and arm. And, the off season for baseball is about to get really, really busy now. Juan Soto free agency, Roki Sasaki sweepstakes. We're going to be keeping an eye on the movements on the baseball in the couple of weeks. So until then, I just want to say thank you for joining us once again. And Ken, I want to wish you and your family a wonderful Thanksgiving next Thursday, and hopefully, we'll get back to it again next Sunday. And if you want to do an early show because you want to spend your weekend shopping and other stuff, do let me know. And then
we'll do it Sunday again. That's fine. Stephen, last year I worked at Best Buy and did Black Friday. I will never do that again. So I don't want to ever do a shopping on Black Friday. Don't worry about that. But yeah, we can definitely do a show next Sunday if you want, and I'll be here. I don't do shopping.
Absolutely.
Anyway, thanks everybody, and happy Thanksgiving to you, Stephen. Happy Thanksgiving to you out there. Thank you for the 230 people who watched us tonight. We'll be back with you next Sunday here on the Double A Team, and we'll see you again next Sunday right here on your live streams. Don't forget, we will have it on YouTube, Blue Sky, and X, and Threads if you're watching that. Yeah, we'll have it any particular platform that you watch. We'll have a link there.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next week. Take care.